Hello and welcome to Immigrant Success Stories. Today we're in conversation with Ayeni Adekunle, an entrepreneur born in Nigeria with businesses in UK, Nigeria and the US.
The problem is to drown out all the noise and be clear. What exactly do I want? And it doesn't have to be the final answer. What you want can change in 2 years or 3 years. But as of now, what am I looking for?
Hi, Ayeni. I'm just going to jump right into it. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It's a pleasure, Isio. Yeah.
And so I would just jump right in and start from the beginning. Context.
Yeah.
Who is Ayeni?
I consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm a creative, a journalist, a writer who became an entrepreneur as a matter of necessity. And my early career was spent writing poems and prose and features, and then I became a talent manager, planning events around the country before I moved into full-time journalism. And I'm perhaps one of the few music journalists on the continent who went on to build a career in corporate, in the corporate world, because I moved my entertainment PR company to become a mainstream communications consultancy, which today works for publicly quoted companies around the world, works in financial services, technology, FMCGs, and what have you. And I do this because it had to be done, because I was trying to escape poverty. So I tried to find what I enjoyed doing, what I liked doing, what I thought I was talented and skilled at. And I tried to find a way to build a business around it so that I would escape where I was. I didn't like where I was.
Yes.
And so I'm at the point right now where I don't even know if I'm an immigrant or if I'm a sojourner or what am I. But I'm at that point right now where I am trying to do in different parts of the world what we've done successfully in Nigeria. It's a Nigerian story that we're trying to take around the world because we want to tell the African story. We want to push the African voice. And perhaps when we do succeed, we can then backward integrate.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting that you say that. And it's true that a lot of our work, in terms of our creative industries, a lot of our music, a lot of our films have been recognized internationally.
Yeah.
And so my question from your perspective, do you think that shall I say, the professionals behind, like creativity has been accepted, right? Because music is like the universal language.
Yeah.
Do you see that kind of translation happening in like the business professional?
It's happening with individuals and professionals who have moved around the world. Our people have moved a lot in the past decade or two.
Yeah.
And they are doing so well in business, in academia.
Yeah.
Our organizations are moving too. Maybe not moving as fast as we want or as much as we want.
Yeah.
But you see, the language of business is as universal as the language of music and film.
That is true.
Whether you are selling products and services, or you are building infrastructure, or you are consulting, it's the same thing. And I dare say that our entrepreneurs, our professionals are some of the most brilliant, some of the most devoted all around the world.
Yeah.
By virtue of our business now, being in the UK, being in Kenya, being in Ghana, and we are right now finalizing plans for being in the US. We're doing Brussels next. And I'm hiring talent from all these places. I can see the brilliance that young Africans bring to the table.
Yeah.
I can see how our organizations are so advanced. We just don't know it and we don't give ourselves credit.
That is true.
So if you look at our banking system, right? If you look at our telcos, if you look at our technology industry, we are powering a lot of fantastic companies around the world, and Nigerian companies are, as I speak to you, going global. If you look into fintech, I can mention Paystack and Flutterwave and Andela and Co. If you come into consulting, I'll give you Extreme Ideas and I'll give you BHM and Co. If you go into banking, you get to Heathrow in London. What do you say is GT Bank? Are we where we need to be? No. But you can see signs that some people are putting one foot in. If only government policies, if only funding issues, if only there is a national agenda around making that happen. I believe strongly that most of these things, if you look at America or you look at China or you look at the UK, and you see their companies going global and doing a lot of those things, okay?
Yeah.
Those things are often on the back of not only entrepreneurial spirits, but government policies and government support.
Yeah.
Because it is in the interest of every nation for their businesses to do well locally and globally. Same for their professionals, right? So you will see what is bound to happen is that although I don't expect the Nigerian government to suddenly behave like the American government or like the British government. I wish they would. But realistically, I don't expect tomorrow for us to just have a policy that says we want our technology industry to rule the world. As a result of that, we're going to provide X amount of funding through this agency and grants and support and infrastructure because we want blah, blah, blah. I wish that would happen, because if it were to happen, it would have happened with music. Our music has globalized in spite of Nigerian issues, not because of Nigeria. So I don't deceive myself to say I wish it would happen.
Yes.
Or that I wish it would happen. But what I know is possible is that because our soft powers have traveled, music is so influential, fashion, film, right? Literature. I think that the businesses who want to be understood globally just need to ride on the back of the languages that they already know, speak well about. Before, it used to be sports. You get anywhere in the world, you say you are Nigerian, they tell you about Austin or culture, they tell you about Kanu. So, because these guys played for the clubs in Europe. So it's a conversation starter.
Yes.
And then if you go to literature, they know Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka, and recently Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Today, it's Burna Boy and Wizkid and Davido, right?
Yes.
Right. And then for those, and that's in Europe and America.
Yes.
If you go across Africa, it's our film stars, Ake and Popo, Genevieve, Nkemowo, and so on and so forth. So if I were an entrepreneur trying to package Ofe Nsala and make it a global delicacy, or if I were trying to do Iro and Buba into an everyday ready to wear, if I were somebody trying to make fabrics that I say, this is a new cool, or if I'm just trying to sell my audit services or my PR and comm services, or I believe that creative advertising requires the African spirit right now. That the biggest brands in the world need to start telling their stories and doing their marketing communications with the point of view of the African language. Africa is vibrant, it's colorful, it's fast. Whatever it is that I create, that I make or that I sell, I believe that it's easier for me today to go around the world to evangelize, because people no longer just know Nigeria for scam emails and for 419. They know our music more than they did a year or two or so before.
That is true.
Right? They know our film. We're on Netflix. We're doing big. We're not there yet. But I think
visible.
that, we're such a small company. But we just say to ourselves that do we want to be a mighty fish in a small pond? Or do we want to chase like this big sea and go and see how big?
I really like that.
We can get. And it's not just from a capitalist point of view. It's not just because we think we can make so much more money. It's because we think that the African voice needs to be heard. I like to say that we not only want to be around the table and have a seat at the table, okay, we want to have influence. We want to have authority. It's like when they say, oh, you are trying to include women, then you see a photo of 7 men with 2 women. I'm like, the job is not yet done.
It's very obvious.
Yes, the job is not yet done. I want to see, we had 7 men for decades, Abi. Let me also see 7 women. That is acceptable also. Don't say we are diverse, because now you see us, we have 7 people, then we have 2 women. You are tokenizing.
Yes. I like what you just said, because you touched upon so many things. You talked about diversity, you talked about inclusion, you talked about taking risks, you talked about globalization and expansion. And so for me, or for some of our listeners out there that say, okay, you know what? I don't just want to be a big fish in a little pond. I want to be amongst the best players in the world. I'm leaving Nigeria for the first time. It occurs to me that there are some things that they may need to learn and unlearn to play the global game. Now, I will throw that question to you. Advice to people who want to play this game on a global scale. As an African or an immigrant or Nigerian, you need to unlearn these aspects. You need to relearn these aspects then maybe you can start. What would you say?
That's a tough one, Isio. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and it's tough because Nigeria is a peculiar place.
Yeah.
We are great people, brilliant people, hardworking people, but we're also very badly behaved people. Not because we're badly behaved. Americans are badly behaved, Britons are badly behaved, but there are strong institutions and there are consequences for bad behavior. Here, you can almost get away with anything. This is one of the few places in the world where once you have money and you know people, you can do quote and unquote and undo.
Do and undo.
Right.
I like that.
So the first thing I advise people is you can't do anyhow.
Yeah.
You know, I always joke when I travel here, when you get to the airport and you see the so-called VIPs with their PAs and mopole, you know, and people, somebody is carrying their bag, carrying their phones, they come into the lounge, you know, everybody is around them, hovering around them, and all of that, you know. But when we all get to Itro, they are dragging everything alone.
We behave ourselves.
They join the queue, they behave, they align.
Yes. So they can act
So,
right.
yeah, so the first thing I always say is that you need to rewire your brain that there's a place that you can't drive against traffic, that you can't have escort, that you can't be traffic lights, that you can't just walk into the bank and do it, that you have to behave because there are consequences for not behaving appropriately, and some of those consequences can follow you for the rest of your life. Right? So I'm like, here, you get involved in sex abuse or somebody, or you assault somebody, you guys can settle it. The family might even say, don't worry. There, you get on the sex offenders register. You're done.
That's it. Yeah.
But the first thing I like to say is research and understand the society you're trying to integrate into and promise yourself to do things legally and to do things appropriately. Yeah. I am not a fan of cutting corners. If you take 4 days to do, please spend 4 days doing it. Be above board. Let anybody hold a mirror to it and they won't find you wanting. Yeah. That's my rule. And I say because we've already been stereotyped. People already expect you're black, you're African, you're Nigerian. People already look at you somehow because they don't understand you.
That is true.
So when I first moved abroad, I held myself to a standard that was higher than what was expected of me because I know you don't know Nigeria. You already expect me to be poor, to be a criminal. Yeah, I'm already tainted. I'm not even blaming you.
Yeah.
But in every interaction that you have with me, you will go back home feeling bad, looking stupid, that, oh, wow. And questioning your
prior judgment.
hitherto held beliefs and stereotyping and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't mean that when you move to, I can speak for Europe and America, that the system still won't kick you in the ass. Pardon my English. Because the system does not understand you. So it was eye-opening for me. It was shocking for me, trying to open bank accounts, trying to get rent accommodation, trying to do things that you could take for granted.
Yeah.
The first thing I think people moving, say Europe and America, need to unlearn is that Nigerian factor, that Nigerian behavior, which doesn't travel. We have a lot to teach them about our culture. We are very courteous people. We are very hospitable. There are a lot of things that we can take with us. Yeah. But there are a lot of things we need to leave behind. That's one. But we also need to learn passionately how those systems work. I didn't learn it on time. I didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
Right? The value of credit.
Yeah.
You know, the value of registering to vote.
Yeah.
Right? The value of being in one address consistently. Those basic things that you wouldn't even imagine, that nobody would tell you.
What's the value of being in one address for?
Because it shows that you are stable and that you are credible. They can borrow you money. You are there. You are who you say you are stable. You are living there.
It's true.
But if you live here 6 months, that place 6 months, that place 7 months, they are not sure. That's why when they ask for addresses, they ask you to show 3 years address. If you stayed in 3 places in the past 3 years, you lose. It's not a crime, but you lose some points.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about the UK. If you're not registered to vote in the UK, you lose some point. Nobody will tell you that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know for the first 3-4 years. I didn't know. I wasn't borrowing money because I had what I wanted to spend, and I didn't. And you know, here we really don't like credit.
No.
So yeah. Credit
is like
until I applied for a mortgage, and there was nothing to show that I was credible to be borrowed money. It's someone that you've never borrowed before, so we can't borrow you because we don't trust that you can pay back. Yes. You don't have a year or 2 years history of borrowing and paying back.
So it doesn't even really matter that you've had the money in the past that you were spending for yourself.
No. You've never borrowed. Why should I borrow you? There's
Especially
a trust built. There's a trust built when you borrow me money, I pay back. You borrow me, I pay back. After a while, you really don't bother. So that credit score thing, I didn't learn it for some time. And that's just one example.
Yeah.
From young people who move abroad, who want to start their lives early, who may after a year or two be looking to try and buy a small place, but you just live your life.
Yeah.
Or you really want to live here permanently.
Yeah.
And you are hoping to, after a few years, maybe get a permanent residency.
Yeah.
And then what kind of visa path are you on?
For me, one of the things that struck me the most when I relocated was how accessible information was and how unified information was across many portals. Like if I call today any government office and say, oh, I want to know about XYZ, one of the first questions would be, okay, one moment, let me check. And they are checking the same resource that is available to me. However, in Nigeria, if I say I want to know something about, say, a national population, I want to get my birth certificate done. I tried to get my birth certificate done, and I had like 5 different information from 5 different people. It's not possible. It's possible.
Oh, I remember when you tried to get your transcripts.
Oh my God.
When you were trying to,
that was horrendous. So there it's very easy and it works. And so I will tie that to, say, you have been an entrepreneur, you've worked abroad, you've also hired talents.
African workforce, absolutely prepared.
Another thing I'm going to say is lots of entrepreneurs in Nigeria, people who hire talent in Nigeria, the one thing that they complain about the most is staff. And perhaps they have good reason for that. So if that staff or the ethics that they have goes abroad, how are they going to struggle?
Some of the best, the most brilliant, the most hardworking people I've worked with in my life are Nigerians. And I've worked with people from everywhere. We are committed, we are hard workers, we are like machines. We work Monday to Sunday. The problem, and I am also somebody who complains a lot about Nigerian talent, but after complaining, I admit that it's not their fault. Which schools did they go to? What trainings did they get? You complain, first class people, they just have first class. They don't even know what they are doing. Go and check what they were taught in school.
That's true.
So the challenge is that the Nigerian talent is giving everything is given in spite of the environmental challenges that they have. Our educational system is ripe for overhauling. Our compensation system, it needs to be fixed. Our government regulation on companies need to be better. If your employer treats you bad, where are you going to turn to? I'm sorry.
Nobody.
So the Nigerian talent is a victim of the Nigerian system. So we are both victims. So I complain about talent a lot. I'm a victim. But the talent I'm calling about is also a victim. We are both victims. The guy has not been trained to help me. So in spite of that, you find that they do their best. So
he's still showing up.
So you can't give what you don't have. So there are exceptions. I've been gifted with extremely brilliant, dedicated, devoted people. But I know that one of my biggest headaches is people management, talent management. And I know is that most of these guys are not, number one, we're not trained the right way because our educational system is a mess. Number two, living conditions are a mess. You need to have an idea of how horrible the Nigerian living condition is. Someone that doesn't have power, internet is failing, there's no good medical support. Transportation is a mess. So they are victims. I say it. If it's like our footballers. Why did they suddenly get abroad and they are superstars? Everybody, the same so-called talent here, put them abroad. Because the infrastructure is there, they can jump on a train and get to work respectably. Nobody will look down on them. They're not, they can walk. I walk everywhere in the UK. I live in Edinburgh. I walk everywhere. I can't walk everywhere here. So they suddenly get abroad. The systems are there. The structure is there, right? Your boss has to be able. So it's just a different environment. And then you find that these guys can perform better. Don't forget, for those who don't want to perform better, there are consequences, both for the employer and for the employee of the consequences of bad behavior. Okay, but what I find here is that actually that we are bringing water out of rocks. Those of us that are entrepreneurs, those of us that are employees, right? The government has not provided enough environment for us to do it. The universities are not training people the way they should be trained to prepare for the world of work. That's why you find that in the 90s and early 2000s, the banks all had to create training schools. would have been held back, even as an employee, by the Nigerian factor. I didn't have a roof on my head. I was cutting. When I was an employee, I couldn't afford to buy my own computer. I was working. I was broke. I was poor. My employer would look at my lack of performance as laziness, unseriousness, because I could find every excuse. There's no power now. You want me to work overnight? There's even no power. I've not even eaten. What you pay me is no. And don't forget that poverty, it travels. So if my parents were poor and you are paying me poorly, I'm supporting my parents from the poor payment that you are paying me. So it's not even not just that I don't have enough to take care of myself. It's that because my parents have been impoverished, I still have to support. There's so many young people who are working,
yes,
who are the breadwinners, yes, to take care of their
true.
parents. Yeah. If we get the diagnosis wrong, then we're in trouble.
I agree.
So we go abroad and do well because we are brilliant and hardworking. We are not lazy. And the system abroad provides a platform for us. I know people here who were struggling.
Yeah.
So I know a girl that said to me, I left Nigeria because I don't want to be somebody that will be living off a man. And I'll be calling one man my chairman. They call it sponsor. I don't want to have a sponsor. Yeah. She was struggling.
How is she now?
Excellent. Global consultant, buying her own house. Excellent.
I love to hear.
Yeah, excellent. On our own terms. This girl had an MBA. She was struggling here. That's it. It makes you look like you are lazy. You don't know what you're doing.
Could this also be another perspective as to why lots of people just take the chance and the risk and say, you know what, I have nothing more to lose by staying here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the chance and find a better life for myself.
Yep.
When did you hit that point? Yeah.
There was a year I saw a lot of accomplished people I respected, accomplished career-wise, and I didn't like how they were living. And I told myself I didn't want to be the old guy that everybody praises their work and their brilliance, but they can't even buy their own beer. And they can't even take care of their family. So I told myself I had to ask for God's wisdom to find a way to use the skilled talent that I have to make money off it in my own way, legitimately. And I like doing things legitimately. Yeah. So that was why I moved from being a writer to being a businessman. I really didn't care about business. In terms of going abroad, it was the realization that there's a limit to how much I can help Nigeria and how much I can help my family if I'm not out of here. Yeah. I want to have my body here, I have a leg here, but I want to have tentacles everywhere else. That's the only way I can help them. And if you look at the greatest Nigerians of all time, whether it's Nnamdi Azikiwe or Tafawa Balewa or Wole Soyinka or Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, or if you look at them, you will find their enterprise. You will find their adventures across Europe and America, professionally, personally, and so on and so forth. I just realized that I needed to understand what was happening globally. Yeah. And I needed to build my business to scale. Otherwise, this business will go down one day and I'm back to where I'm coming from. And that personal loss, I'm not as afraid of that personal loss as I'm afraid of then losing the opportunity to help Nigeria as much as I could. Yeah. My dream is to make sure that every young person that is going through what I went through gets an opportunity to not have to go through it. Yeah. I wish I had exposure to better education, better resources, and better facilities. Yeah. So I didn't care about building wealth until I realized what ways wealth would help me to help the guys in Okokomaiko where I grew up, in my village in Okakoko, in where I was born in Aitoro. People in all across the continent who cannot go to school just because their parents are poor, or who are going to poor schools, or who can't buy. I was in school, I couldn't afford textbooks. I was in university, I couldn't even ask my parents that we had to buy this because I know that we can't afford it. And then I'm excited to come out to the world and compete with those who had everything.
Who had everything, yes.
And don't tell me that I succeeded. It's an exception. Yeah. It's not the norm.
It's not the rule.
There are few of us who grew up in that environment in Okokomaiko who I think escaped. I see my old friends on Facebook. At times I drive to Okokomaiko just to go and see. And I'm sad. These are brilliant people. Society happens to you.
That's amazing. You said something that it just keeps playing in my mind over and over again. Society happens to you. Yeah. And it's really true. Yeah. You're really influenced, supported, or limited by the society you choose to live. Yep. Imagine someone who feels like, they come from a poor family, they don't have much, they don't have lots of opportunities. they are miserable, depressed, angry all the time, displeased with their life, don't see a good future, but still want to try. What kind of mindset do you think they should have?
I can speak to what worked for me. Reading changed my mindset. I'd been all over the world before I left Koko Michael. I'd read Mugo Gateru, the Kenyan leader. I'd read Diana Shaw. I'd read Shoyinka. I stole everybody's books. All the books my mom told me not to read. The Chinua Achebes, I read everything. Books that were too advanced for my age, I read everything. Reading showed me what the world was like. I knew America, I knew Europe, I knew Africa. Nelson Mandela, I read. Reading did that for me. Some people, it's television that does it for them. Right? I just think that you are, at the end of the day, what you fill your mind, body, and soul. It's extremely important. Often, we are not intentional about it. We just consume what comes to us. It's like eating. Some people eat anything. I'm deliberate about eating. You can put junk around me. I will wait until I find what I think will nourish my body, because I know that I'm eating for a specific purpose. So the kind of books I was exposed to as a teenager, the kind of understanding I got came from what I consumed. Otherwise, I would have gone down. I was smoking weed at 15 years old. All my friends were badly behaved. Okoko is as ghetto as it gets. There is no way that I would have escaped. But I knew I was from there, but I knew I was not off there.
Yeah.
And once I could get out, I knew I wasn't going back there.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to go back there. I told myself that once I graduated, there was no way I was going back to go and live there. Yeah. When I was younger and I was trying to fix my mindset, I was looking for people to relate with. I wrote physical letters and posted them all around the country. To all the people I wanted to be like, or that I thought give me. I wrote everybody. Nobody replied me.
Didn't that break your heart?
No. I mean, I just tried it. Not a single reply. There is not a single business executive or celebrity that I liked that I didn't write to. I was maybe 16, 17 years old. But today I can follow them. Today people DM me on Instagram and I reply them. Sorry, I like your work. I follow your company. And I reply. It's people are more accessible now. Right? You could literally DM Barack Obama. Somebody will read, whether it's his PA or somebody, and they might not see it, it's fine. So for me, it's to identify what are you looking for, where are they, and can you curate? I tell people to curate their social media feed in a way that it speaks to the kind of mindset they want to have. Don't just follow every Tom, don't be there. Why are you on Twitter? Why are you on Instagram? Most people scroll 247. Nothing feeds your mind more than that. What are you feeding your mind with? Is it gossip you are interested in? Is it just gist and scandals? Or is it fashion? What do you want? I curate the people I follow on social media very intentionally. You have to add a value to me, emotionally, spiritually, professionally. Yeah. For me to be taking everything you are
putting out in the world.
Putting out, yeah. So it's probably easier today. People are more accessible. There is technology. There are now websites everywhere with email addresses. I started my career in 96, 97, there was nothing like that. Yeah. Right? There was nothing like that. I didn't think that we had email addresses at the time, not to talk of mobile phones and everything. Right? So I think it's easier now. The problem is to drown out all the noise and be clear. What exactly do I want? And it doesn't have to be the final answer. What you want can change in 2 years or 3 years. But as of now, what am I looking for? Whether it's on social media or in physical spaces, there are pastors I don't go to their church that I follow. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Pojo Emade and Samade. I don't go to church, but they speak to me. I'm like, this guy's get it. This guy's get it. This guy's get it.
So it's very important to be intentional about what you consume and what you let in.
Yep. That's your body, mind, and soul.
It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So I have known you for many years now, and you're one of the few people I know in the entire world who is almost always at ease. Most people, when you see them, even if they are calm and chilled, it's a certain thing to just be at ease in your own body, with your own identity. You don't seem hurried, you don't seem stressed. You just seem comfortable in your own skin and your surroundings. Like you don't feel out of place in whatever environment you're in. And I say that because you're a Yoruba man. You don't hide your identity as a Yoruba man. You speak the language beautifully. You speak English flawlessly. You go all around the world. Sometimes you dress in the Nigerian attire. You don't feel like you have to change anything to be comfortable anywhere. And so my question would be, how do you approach issues of identity and assimilation with people who are migrating from one culture to another culture? What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, so as of today, my view is that it's personal. If you were born in Nigeria, but you now carry a British passport, you can choose to be British. I can live with it.
Yeah.
If you are in America and you want to be American and you don't want to associate with Nigeria or Africa, I can live with it. It's personal. I know people who are raising their children as British, even though they are originally Yoruba and Nigerian.
Yeah.
But who have just said, and I respect it.
Yeah.
I think those things are personal, they're very spiritual, and they change with time. Personally, my identity is that I am a Nigerian man of Yoruba origin. I'm proud of my language. I write it well. I speak it well. If I had a choice, I would only speak it. If I had a choice, if I was president of Nigeria, you won't hear me speaking English. You will have to translate every time I communicate. When I speak English, it will be a big deal. Same way I talk about the day Joseph Biden wears Bubash Koto and Agbada or wears a Babariga, it's going to be news. So if I'm president, why am I wearing suit? No. That's what drives. I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of our heritage. I understand what it means. I know the spiritual essence of our fashion, of our religion. The Yoruba Ifa is as robust, as profound as any other religious concept in the world. I understand it. I believe in it. I respect it. And I believe in the equality of all of these things.
Yeah.
I don't think that because I now have access to America and Europe, I wear very good shoes. I wear Louboutins and Gucci and Elvis and all of that. I love them. I love good stuff. But I don't think they are more important than my buba and shokoto. The beauty of a modern world is that I can exist in all of those frames. Is that I can wear my Apple Watch with my nice agbada, right? Is that I can chew my bitter cola, right? And you're smelling this nice oil perfume on my body from somewhere. Really, that's the beauty that we can have access to that. It's such a privilege. It's such a beauty. Why do I want to dump one for the other? But when you see me visually, I want you to know that this is a Yoruba Nigerian man. I never want to change my accent. I don't want to speak like an American. I'm not. I don't want to speak like the Scots or like the British. I want to enter a room and you realize that not only is a black man here, if you understand Nigerian accent, this is a Nigerian Yoruba man. But that would not diminish the value I bring to that table. We are as smart, as exposed, as educated, as hardworking as anybody. Same way, and you look at the Chinese, they are proud. They took everything from the rest of the world. But that culture, that language, they kept it. The Indians, same thing. So personally, if you ask me, I would wish that the Igbos, the Hausas, the Ibibios, the Efik, the Yorubas, that we understand our history and our culture more, and that we exhibit it as often as we can. It may not always be practical. When I'm in the UK now, I'm not able to dress as Nigerian, especially when it's cold, as I want to. Right?
Yes.
I admit it.
Yeah.
But I take every excuse to make sure that when you see me write my name, you see the accent on it. It's not an English word.
Yeah.
My name without all the accents is not my name. I'm sorry. You put in that effort to it, because if it was a Chinese or an Arabic name, you would write it the way it should be written.
Yes.
Right? And when you ask me where I'm from, I tell you, I'm Nigerian, I'm Yoruba, I know where I'm from. So personally, that works for me. It makes me feel like I'm connected to the source. When I speak the language, when I dress in some ways, I wear my Yoruba cap, the Egba cap that I wear the Hausa caps at times. I love it. But it doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with a beautiful three-piece suit. Or there is anything wrong with some distressed jeans and some nice sneakers. And I've gotten into colorful sneakers now. You know, I love them. I would wear them. Right? But I'm grateful to God that can exist in all of those worlds. The beauty of world, which I think that you find the British come here, they just bend into our system.
Yeah.
I saw somebody yesterday, where was there at the judge, a white man wearing nice buba and shokoto, very well fitted.
Oh,
they come here and they just adapt and they look very good in it.
Yes.
That's it.
True.
So the beauty that we can live in a world where you can be multicultural, you can pick from here and here and here.
Yeah.
That's the United Nations as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. That is true.
So that tolerance for cultures and that, and you not taking it personal and say, well, I hear what you said, but I'm more comfortable with suit and tie, and that's what I'm going to wear. It's okay. Or I'm going to change my name from Wale Robert or from Wale something, and I'm not going to be frank. I respect your decision. It's okay. Countries are not God-given. Countries are man-made.
Yeah.
Right?
That is...
Yeah. So
is
yeah.
very profound
Yes.
and true.
So, but personally, as Ayeni Adekunle Samuel, I chose to believe in Christianity, for example, but I also believe in the traditional Yoruba religion. I know it.
Yeah.
It's not what it was painted to be.
Yeah.
I'm not a Catholic. I understand what the Catholics are about. I believe in what they are doing.
Yeah.
I'm not an Anglican. I know what they are doing. Yeah. Right? It's just to be exposed enough to understand Islam for what Islam is. Even though you don't want to convert to Islam, but you understand their mission, you respect what they are doing. And we can live and exist in that world.
Yeah. Right?
If I met an Igbo, if I met your parents, I will greet them respectfully.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's to be that intentional and that exposed and to this. But my wish is that our practices, our culture, our law will travel as widely globally as possible. The way that from Europe and America
has traveled to us.
That the traditional hair,
yes,
our Didi, all those that we call, that will become a big trend all over the world. The way weaves and human hair are a big deal here. That our food, look at how fantastic our food is.
Our food is amazing.
That our food will be as global as sushi.
Yes.
Right? That's and if we don't exhibit it, if we don't, then I'm sorry, yes, it's not going to happen.
True.
Yeah.
That is so profound. I feel like we've spoken about so many powerful and useful things, and I really, really, really appreciate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
We're going to close the show now, and we have a tradition where we ask you 2 questions, and then we ask you to ask another question for the next guest coming.
Okay, that's cool.
So I'm just going to start with the very first one, which would be, so these are 1-word answer questions.
That's good.
What is 1 word you would use to describe your personal philosophy?
It is possible.
So
that's not 1 word. So
possibility.
I'll use possibility. There's nothing that is impossible.
Okay, that is perfect. So what is 1 word that your closest friends or family would use to describe you?
Stubborn.
Okay, now you have to go. You have to give more context into this one.
Stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person.
Stubborn in that you follow your own mind?
Told me one day that you're so stubborn, it will either lead to your greatness or to your downfall. I'm just very stubborn. If I believe in something, I go for it.
Okay.
Everything I'm trying to do, I'm trying to build a Ferrari with a Volkswagen budget. That's me. So I'm very stubborn. I'm very strong-headed. I'm respectful. I'm courteous. But if I think something needs to be done, it has to be done, And I grew up. So people around me will tell you that, it's very, very stubborn, very opinionated. I'm getting older, so I'm trying to calm down. But it's like, when they say that, there's a bird that they say you won't know that it sits on water, that you won't know that it's paddling a lot on top of the water. When you see it, it seems like it's floating. That's me. I don't panic. I'm very cool. If you come to my event, I'm just watching. I'm never scattered. But deep down inside, I'm fighting.
Yeah.
I'm fighting. So I'm very, very stubborn. So I think,
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so we have the first one, personal philosophy, possibilities.
Yeah.
1 word to describe you, stubborn. Your favorite book?
That's a very tough one. I've read. I doubt I'll be able to
for this phase in your life.
For this,
Yes. For this phase in your life.
That's very, very profound. I'm literally combing my desk.
Archives.
For this phase in my life, It will be the book by Edward Bernays. It's called Propaganda.
Okay.
It's the book that sets sort of the framework for what has become modern public relations. And this book was done, God knows how many decades ago. It's a long time ago.
Wow.
So I've been researching a lot the role that public relations plays in nation building. I believe that stakeholder management is very important in making sure countries don't go to war. Somebody advises presidents, we have to do this, let's not do this. Strategy, like the role that that profession plays. And then I came across the book again, and the book laid down all the groundwork for what became modern PR. Well, one of the most significant books. I'm reading it again. I'm also reading a book on Ikigai, if you know the Japanese concept and all of that. So those are two things that I think are influencing me right now. There is an article there are two articles I go to read every year. One is How Will You Measure Your Life? Is by the late economist Christensen, and there is one from the guy called Naval, How to Be Successful.
Oh,
yeah,
he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And How to Get Rich. He's brilliant.
How to Give Out. That is How to Get Rich.
Yes.
That's the thread. Yeah. So that's very, very powerful. And then there's a collection of articles by the Harvard class of 1960 something. They got all of them many years after they've left Harvard, when they are now old, to reflect on their lives.
Oh, I would love to read that.
You will see successes, those who disease just blindsided them, those who have now divorced, those who failed woefully, meanwhile they were the best students. So I read that. So those, you asked for one, I've given you 5, 2 books and 3 long reads that I think just helped me sort of sharpen my thinking.
It's really good. Well, thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So
Thank
the
you so
last
much.
thing I would ask you is, I would like you to throw a random question for the next guest, which the next guest would answer.
How do we solve the Nigeria problem? It bothers me a lot.
How do we solve the Nigeria problem?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. How? What do we do? How can we fix this blessed, great, gifted country? How?
That is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ayeni. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
and for all the beautiful insights.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope you guys had a lovely, wonderful show. It's been really amazing for me here as your host, talking to Ayeni and all the insights. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isio. Thanks. Thank you so much.